We are now recording this and we'll be posted on the website later. So Greg, we're going to turn the time over to you and enjoy.
Okay, my name is Greg Glenn. So you may know me as the DAS Doctor. I've been in the radio business for about 45 years and am now currently employed by a company called Pulse Signal Solutions. And I got a little bit about my life here. Let's see what happens if this goes the way it's supposed to.
I'm worried about little Dilbert. He's not like other kids.
What do you mean?
Yesterday, I left him alone for a minute, and he disassembled the TV, our clock, and the stereo.
That's perfectly normal. Kids take things apart.
Ooh. The part that worries me is he used the components to build a ham radio set.
Oh dear.
Is that bad?
Normally I'd want to run an EEG on him, but the machine isn't working. It's worse than I feared.
What is it?
I'm afraid your son has the knack.
The knack?
The knack. It's a rare condition characterized by an extreme intuition about all things mechanical and electrical, and utter social ineptitude.
Can he lead a normal life?
No. He'll be an engineer.
No!
There.
Anyway, that's just kind of, I was tagged with that about 25 years ago, and I still use it today. So Pulse Signal Solutions. What can you expect from us? Real clear communications. What do we do? Pulse Signal Solutions is the RF engineering division of Apex Site Solutions. Apex Site Solutions started over a decade ago, standing up RF towers, putting in tower top amps, doing testing for both cellular and public safety. And about 2 years ago, they decided that they wanted to expand a little bit more, seeing that there was a large hole in engineering applications for general RF, specifically in the public safety industry, both the macro and the in-building side of things. So we are a communications company. Our staff has over 50 years of experience in public safety system radio design, both macro and then also in building with about 30 years of in building. Designing and building distribution systems with our first installs with some of our employees back in the 1980s. We design based on the needs of the licensee as well as the FCC rules. Unfortunately, a lot of systems going in today aren't being designed based on the needs of the licensee or the FCC rules. And we don't just look at the fire code. Pulse designs and builds public safety communication systems by understanding the overall ecosystem, not just one aspect of the fire code. As some of you know, the fire code is now requiring lots of in-building enhancements to occur. Pulse makes sure that their designs do not interfere with the macro radio environment, taking the burden off the licensees to protect their radio networks from unnecessary interference. Pulse not only designs and builds great systems, Pulse also participates in driving great policy. From our perspective, we're real. We treat our partners like friends. We do not just do what we're asked. We use our expertise to solve beyond the problem at hand. We try to be clear, real clear connections. We want our words and messages to be as clear as the connections we provide. No jargon, not just because it adds complexity, but so that you always understand the value we're providing. And our connections. We make sure connections can be made, plain and simple. Connections that improve our industry, connections that prepare people for whatever the future may hold, and connections that matter most to those who need them on a daily basis, specifically our public safety first responders. We're involved with policy. I am a member of NFPA 1225, which is a National Fire Protection Agency and writes fire code specifically around public safety communications. I also sit on the NICET Public Advisory Policy Advisory Panel, and NICET is a group that's trying to bring back a certification for RF engineers, specifically as it pertains to in-building, but in other avenues as far as public safety radio. I sit on UL 2524 technical standards technical panel, which is a UL standard for in-building communications equipment. I also am a Northern California APCO member as well as Southern California APCO member, and I'm part of the Safer Buildings Coalition and work as a chair for the Public Safety Technologies working group. That's about it for me on what Pulse does. We're an engineering group, but as part of our effort to drive good policy, Pulse, in a partnership with NAPCO, is presenting a 3-part training event for licensees, code officials, and fire officials and integrators. This will occur in November. I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about that and to focus in on what we're specifically doing with that training effort. The course is going to cover the following subject matter. What is driving the proliferation of signal boosters used to eliminate coverage holes on public safety LMR systems? And just a little bit of background on this. The National Fire Code, as well as the IFC, has language in the building codes now that are requiring the installation of RF emitting devices to eliminate perceived coverage problems in radio systems. So the state and local national codes are requiring the use of these type of devices. The FCC, however, has a few things to say about this, and so we're going to be covering that. We're also going to demonstrate how and why these devices can either positively or negatively affect LMR radio systems. And we're going to discuss the licensee's authority and responsibilities under the FCC rules. So that will be part of the training session. As we get deeper into sessions 2 and 3, the first session will be just general overview. We'll be talking about the math behind this. So we'll actually be getting into RF 101. We'll be discussing losses and, RF losses, free space loss. The stuff that we used to use, 30 years ago when we designed radio systems that it seems has been forgotten over the years. We're going to discuss on how to safely use these devices without causing degradation to the overall radio network, how to determine if the use of these devices will cause problems to your radio network, and how to create a plan so that you don't have to clean up a big mess in the future. Licensees, whether they like it or not, are seeing signal boosters added to their systems, which they are supposed to go through the licensees, but sometimes that's not happening. In fact, a lot of times that's not happening. So we're trying to get the licensees to be more involved in the process. So what exactly are we talking about here? Well, I'm going to give you a couple demonstrations on why this is important. And here we have one. Some of you may know this gentleman. He is in the industry, in the communications, retired police officer. But I've got a couple audio clips that'll demonstrate why this is important.
128, sorry, you had static tonight?
Another.
Sorry, you're still sketchy.
10-4. So can you get the Franklin Gate, please?
Adam 6110. Was there another unit?
Okay, so I'm assuming everybody heard that audio. One of the things I wanted to say, that was eventually drilled down to signal booster problem in a particular jurisdiction. One of the things that was said in there was a police officer was requesting the dispatcher to send others. So this can be an issue. I've got one more clip.
Mary 4.36. Mary 4.36. but the radio keeps static. Mary 4.36.
Okay, so basically because of the type of interference problems that we're having that are occurring using these signal boosters, the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, came out with a public notice in December of last year, kind of reminding the industry, if you will, on what their responsibilities were during these installations. And essentially, the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau of the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau issued the following notice. I have just taken some salient points, but anytime a signal booster is, or frankly for any RF Part 90 RF device, emitting device, the licensee has to be involved with this. When it comes to a signal booster, the licensee has to provide written authorization for any signal booster. So just because of the fact that it says in the fire code that these things will be put in, or in a local building code, that's not all that has to happen according to the FCC. And then there's a registration requirement for Class C signal or Class B signal boosters. Actually, there should be registration requirement for all Class A and B. In fact, 90% of the problems we see now are Class A boosters, but the FCC actually requires the registration of Class B boosters. We'll be talking about what that means. And of course, failure to do so risks harmful interference to first responders and may be subject to enforcement action. This is one of the Q&A questions in that document. What is the penalty for operating a Part 90 PLMR signal booster outside of the commission's rules, which is a $100,000 fine. So, and then they even went so far as, is the building code requirement a suitable substitute for express written consent? And the commission just says no. So we'll be talking about that. There's some other things that we have, the authority to operate a signal booster, all the FCC rules that go behind that. A few statistics on what's happening right now to these LMR systems. Less than 10% of all BDA and DAS systems, at least this was the last report I had, installed do not have express license authorization. So less than 10% are actually getting the authorization that they are required by law to acquire prior to putting systems in. Based on information gathered from different licensees that are actually monitoring DAS installs, 75 to 90% of these systems checked have uplink gain set for 90 dB or more. And I know that's a technical issue, but what we're finding out is that some of these devices, although they are certified by the FCC, may not be, shall we say, meeting the requirements of FCC rule section 9219, which regulates the use of these in-building devices. So while this statement is true, it's not always because of integrators doing the wrong thing. It is also involved with the equipment that is currently in the marketplace. And of course, the FCC found these issues serious enough to actually issue this particular public notice. Just a couple other things, 95, just in general, and I don't want to go into a bunch of details here, but when we talk about these high gain amplifiers, and if you're an 800 meg system operator, this can affect your radio sites up to 4 miles away. A 450 meg operator 8 miles away, and 150 meg operator 16 miles away. And this is based on a 95 dB gain setting. And we'll be talking about that also and the math behind that. But that's just to put it in perspective. If the licensees aren't watching what's going on with their networks, they can end up having their network slowly chewed away by the addition of these devices when they're not when they're not used properly, or when they're put in when they shouldn't be put in. Some other issues: if a BDA is in operation or signal booster is in operation within 2 miles of a donor site, there's a good there's a good chance that the system receiver sites are being affected. So if you have a radio system and you're a licensee and you've got BDAs in your system, if you don't know where they are, the likelibility is that they're making a little bit of noise on your system and actually what we call desensing or degrading your receive capability of your radio system. The FCC rules have specific requirements on BDA and DAS system noise levels. However, they're not being followed. If they were followed, a lot of this wouldn't be happening. 800 meg systems installed within specification of FCC rules protect donor sites at approximately 1 mile. And I guess what I'm trying to say there is that the rules are written around a 1 mile protection area. So another quick comment about Pulse and Pulse Signal Solutions is we do provide macro system radio design. We do third-party testing. We do third-party plan check for the licensees that can't afford to stand up their own organization to do these, so that you don't have to get caught with one of these amplifiers being put in without all the proper documentation as well as testing. We provide the tools to licensees who need to plan how to accommodate Part 90 applications and that are being driven through the codes. And we also work with HJs to set up a plan, long-term plan, so that they can accommodate these in-building needs and requests that are being brought through the fire and building codes. Here in the state of California, we're under IFC, which is IFC 510, and that somewhat points to NFPA 1225. So both of those pieces of code kind of go hand in hand with each other. There are a little bit of differences, but for the most part, they do the same thing. That's all that I have. And if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Greg. So in the chat, I did post, because NABCO is working with Pulse to provide this training free to anybody. Greg, how many people are signed up so far?
Last time I checked, we had about 80, 85, something around that nature. Okay. I haven't checked in the last couple of days. So. And
it's going to be another Zoom meeting. And that information is posted on the NABCO website. Some emails are going to be going out later after this event. But the information is posted in chat. You guys can click on that link and get information there to sign up for the event also. Again, it's 3 different days, a week apart from each other, to go over it and increasing levels of difficulty of understanding and comprehension, basically, right, Greg?
Yeah, the first is an overview, for more of an executive overview of what the problem is, what's happening. And then the second 2 are more around, number 1, the math behind this and understanding that. And then the third session is going to be more driven around, as a licensee, what or how you can set up policy to keep problems from occurring and keep track of what's going on. The unfortunate reality is that the fire code has driven the licensees to almost have to set up their own divisions to handle what the fire code is doing. Although the law, the FCC rules require that the licensees be involved. So it's kind of a, I guess, catch-22, but those are the 3 sessions. Hopefully we can clear some things up and help specifically the licensees understand what's going on with this issue.
This was a great overview to what Pulse does and provides, and again, the introduction to the training class that's going to be offered or is being offered. So we appreciate it. Are there any questions the room has for Greg in regards to Pulse? Well, it is 3 o'clock, so there are other sessions going on outside this room. But this room, there's nothing else scheduled after this. So Greg, we appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording now.